Welcome to Toffee TV. It is the Daily Live Extra. And the managerial search goes on at Everton Football Club. But the talk is now that Everton are going to take a little bit more time and are going to have a little bit more of a think about it over the coming days. That all sounds great, right? That all sounds great. But let me just stress one thing to everybody. The transfer window shuts on Monday. And we need players. And we're witnessing players going to other clubs. There's a possibility of Jesse Lingard going to Newcastle. There's a possibility of a very talented centre-back going to Newcastle. Burnley look like they're jumping into the market. You know, Watford are getting a new manager. So it's all good and well, Everton not rushing into a decision. But we need a couple of players because we are toothless and we're rubbish at the back, which basically is a recipe for disaster. So as much as I'm happy that Vitor Pereira isn't just being given the job for the next 5 or 6 months, Everton have to put themselves in a position where they can get somebody in or just get out there and get some players in. Because otherwise, we will be going into the last 4 months of this season with this current crop of players. And I don't think this current crop of players are good enough. So it's very much a catch-22 situation as far as I'm concerned. Ned.
Yeah, we need midfielders. Need a centre-back desperately. I don't think we've got a lot of injuries, and I don't think this team's good enough anyway. Certainly not in midfield. Obviously, Sean Longstaff looked likely at the start of January, very unlikely now. But we've got no director of football, no manager. Probably left to Kia Joraban, really, then, isn't it? To make the
it probably is being left to Kia Joraban, I imagine,
which is not good.
Which is a worrying thing. But if it has been left to Kia Joraban, at least that's maybe some kind of plan. It's not a plan I really like, but maybe that's some kind of plan. And with only, next Monday is deadline day. And as I said, Newcastle are going to ramp it up. In the next few days, Newcastle are going to go out and spend serious money. Jesse Lingard looks like he could be coming in on loan there. And if after the guy from Seville, 37, 38 million, he'll make a massive difference to their defence. And what you're talking about here is you're only talking about, certainly for a club like Newcastle, they have to, if they win 5 games, or 6 games, say 7 games, which they could do, then they'll stay up. And then their revolution starts. Burnley with their defence will fancy it. If they can get maybe a couple of goals into the team.
The thing that worries me about Burnley, if it's Burnley is very much used to getting out of or being in a scrap, and the manager knows how to grind out results.
Exactly.
These players aren't used to that.
They did that on Sunday when they went to Arsenal, where they just got men behind the ball. They went for a point and they got a point. Norwich won back-to-back games.
Massive.
And they'll have loads of confidence now, thinking
players starting to get goals now.
But they'll think we can do this because there's no pressure on us. Whereas all the pressure in that bottom 5 is on us. Watford are changing the manager. They're going to a very pragmatic manager.
They might be looking to get some players in to back in.
But they'll have.
They're not even the bottom 3, are they?
They'll have Sarr back, won't they? They'll get Sarr back in the next few weeks, so he'll make a big difference to them. And things will change just because Hodgson will make them.
Yeah, I think they'll be fine.
I don't think they'll be fine.
I don't think they'll go down. I'm saying they'll finish mid-table, but I can't see Watford going down. They shouldn't have sat the fellow in the first place.
But if you can't see Watford going down, who can you see going down then? Because someone has to go down.
Well, I was going to say there's 3 teams that go down. Don't forget. So you're saying, Norwich looks safe.
No, I know, but you've just said Watford will be fine, but Watford don't look fine.
Neither do Everton. To be
honest.
No,
I don't think. At this moment, I think Everton are going down. I've got no problem saying that. As we stand, I think Everton are going down.
And some of the managers being mentioned. Obviously, Pereira doesn't make me feel safe in a relegation battle at all. He's gone down before.
No, but nobody makes me feel safe because it's not about necessarily the manager. It's about the players. I don't think the players have got any fight in them, and I don't think we've got any creativity in the team, and I don't think we're in the right shape because of of players who've been out all season and the players who've come back. A little bit of ray of sunshine, maybe, is Nathan Patterson played last night for the under-23s. Looked like he had a decent game. Look, he got an assist. Don't be fooled, by the way, because this lad's an international footballer who we paid 12 million quid for. So he should be well above that level. But hopefully that means now he starts against Brentford. I think someone like him, you just go, you're playing now. Because what I seen from him last night is he's got the tenacity and got the physical levels to play. And I just think for me, he's the one you go, you put him in. Michalenko, we'll wait and see. But I think we've got to get some kind of structure in our team now and go, you know what, this is going to be our back four for the rest of the season. And maybe that's putting the two full-backs in, maybe putting Mina next to, with Ben Godfrey maybe, and just saying this is our back four and leaving it as it is and saying we work on that back four for the rest of the season. But I'd definitely put Patterson in because I don't think it's time to be going, he'll do this and he'll do that. You've got 18 games. You need to win 6 of them. So
if we'd go down, they could probably get off anyway, to be honest, and we'll make a loss. There's no one ahead of Patterson, really. I don't think John Joe Kenny's nowhere near good enough, and he's got 5 months left, 6 or 5 months left in his contract. Godfrey's not a left back. I think he was poor on Saturday, so I'd get them in. And maybe they'd have played Saturday. I think I've said before. I said to Baz yesterday. If Dunk's sat there thinking he's only got one game to prove himself, the pressure's on the team and the pressure's on him, then he's probably going to think, if I play Patterson, who hasn't played a Premier League game in his life, and Michalenko, who's played one, obviously you lose that solidity. But it could go horrifically wrong. Where if he plays Godfrey and Kenny, he's thinking, Godfrey's a bit more solid left back wise, and I don't know what I expected from Kenny. Probably the same.
I think he was just trying to make us more solid and just put the players he hasn't seen play too much to the side and say, we're going to try and be safe. I'm going to go with what I know. It's probably what a lot of managers would do in that situation, but I think now it has to evolve going forward. So I'd put Nathan Patterson right into that team now and just say, it's sink or swim time for everyone. John Joe Kenny's not the answer. I don't think Ben Godfrey at left back's the answer because I don't think we've got another good enough centre back to play alongside Mina. I think the other centre backs are dross. Holgate's not good enough. Keane's not good enough.
I liked that. It was good how we took Keane out after poor performance because that's how it should be. The only problem is it shows the lack of depth in our squad because we put Holgate in there. I don't think he was terrible on Saturday, don't get me wrong.
No, he's just not good enough.
But it's still every time he gets on the ball, you worry, don't you?
He's just not good enough. That's all. He's just not good enough. And there's a lot of that in our... Well, there's quite a lot of that in our squad where you replace one player who has a poor game and you replace him with another equally poor player who can't... There's no one's fighting to get into this team. Mm-hmm. So that's a major problem. That's a major problem. So... It's all well and good. People having a moan about Dominic Calvert-Lewin, which I find staggering, by the way. Staggering. Lad's been out for 4 months.
He's not sharp.
I find that staggering, to be honest.
On a normal day, he scores that chance where Gordon whips it in.
Well, he probably does, but people are the same. People are moaning about him, but people are moaning about Rondon every single week, and he'd be the only one who'd replace him. You've got it's about sharpness, about timing. Timing was way off on Saturday. And he has to keep going and keep going. He needs to get that match fitness. I've seen people say he was pathetic. He wasn't pathetic at all. He's just miles off it because he hasn't barely played for 4 months. And you don't know how much he's training because he might be a little bit worried of it, or he might have a bit of stiffness in it. And that's the story of where we are at the moment. Mina was out for 3 months. Let's not forget. That was his first full game. Just glad he got through it. And that's where we are now. Maybe we just have to. Hopefully, this is like a bit of a break, isn't it? Now I know, like Mina's away, but that's about it. I think Mina's the only one who's away. Everyone else will get, they'll train and they might have a few days off and that kind of thing. This is like a de facto winter break. So, Everton have got to but Everton in the meantime have got to really get their heads together and make a decision because it's a huge decision. This one now, as we said, Watford sacked their manager and the next day they get another manager in. This is the problem. Said this before. This is what happens when you've got so many people with opinions coming from different sides, Roberto Martinez, apparently we're still trying to get Roberto Martinez. We're still trying to make one more effort while the owner is getting Jordan's fellas, mentioned to him. And we're not even going after the real people we should be going after. We should be going after Graham Potter. Okay, the chances of getting him very unrealistic. Lucien Favre is a name that has not been mentioned enough. Lucien Favre should be one of the favourites. Lucien Favre's door should have been knocked down by now. Asked, saying, please come and save Everton. He's someone who I think would get some instant results. It's from out the players.
There's a lot of talk going on. There's been no contact with Rooney as well. It's coming from a
exactly.
And Rooney's really, out of all those managers, he's the one who's already right now, as we speak, grafting out.
Well, there's an emotional connection, isn't there? And there's an emotional connection from him. Lampard, the saying, at the second interview. I mean, what's going on?
Does that mean he either interviewed really well, so they give him another one, or interviewed really poorly, so they said here's another chance?
I know. I just don't know. That's the problem. I don't know. I don't understand. I don't understand where we are with this whole thing. I understand the whole thing has taken more time. I just don't understand where we are in the process, because we sacked Rafa Benitez over a week ago, and it doesn't feel like we're any further down the process. It really doesn't. You'd like to have thought by the end of last week we'd have known who we wanted to get, and we would have been making preparations, because that manager could come in this week. Number one could come in and have targets ready to go, and number two would have a couple of weeks with the players. How long are we going to drag this out for? And I'm not, as I said, I'm happy that it's great going. We're going to have more time, but they've already had over a week. Whereas, like I say, Watford were like, bang, we know what we want straight away. And that's the problem with this lot, is that there's too many chiefs. There's not, and there's too many people throwing in. And I know the problem is that the owners, it's all scattergun anyway. But there's no, because there's no real board, and because it's like you've got one side and you've got another side. This is where the director of football is supposed to make the decisions. This is where the director of football is supposed to make those decisions.
We've had a director of football, and even then, he didn't choose a manager. We brought a manager and he didn't want, so that just shows how I wouldn't trust him if we did bring in a Dan Ashworth.
Phil says, I think the issue of a manager needs to take a back burner for a few weeks as we try and recruit players before Monday. Phil, who brings in the players then? Who brings in the players? Who's in charge of that? We haven't got a director of football. So who makes those decisions? Who's making the decisions at the football club? Is it Kia Jordan? And then therefore, are they just cast-offs that he wants to push on us? Or are they what we actually need? Who's making the decision of what we need? Are they going to Duncan Ferguson and saying, well, you're the caretaker manager, what does this club need? Not who do you want, but what does this club need? Who's making those decisions? That to me is the worrying part of this whole process. Is that it's not an issue that we haven't got a manager, it's an issue that we haven't got a director of football, because that's what a director of football is supposed to be doing right now, and we stupidly sacked ours with no plan. It's fine, or he left, whatever. It's fine if people didn't like Marcel Brands, or they didn't like Marcel Brands, but where's the plan? He went over a month ago, and we're supposed to be having a review. How long does it take to have a review? Or how long does it take to put processes in place that you can patch that up, or put a I don't know, is Kia Jordan the caretaker director of football at this football club? But that's not, you can't have that, because
then he should be choosing the manager then, and I don't feel.
But a caretaker and a manager is supposed to be someone who's like who sails the ship, like the whole ship.
Well, the whole point of having a director of football is you've got a direction, and you sign this type of players, all the same type of players, and he'll choose the manager. The manager's not doing it. You get rid of him and bring the manager with the same qualities in. At the moment, we're linked with all different types of manager. We've got a squad full of different types of players. We'll probably end up bringing in another type of player who's got. If we can go and sign some players now, and then we could either go and get a manager who doesn't suit the type of players we're bringing in at all, or suits them perfectly. But if you have a director of football, you still sign the same type of players, and you go and get the same.
The thing
type
about
of
it is, though,
manager.
the thing about it, isn't it? What I would say is, though, there are types of players out there that suit everyone. Like a good centre-back suits everybody. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't really matter what style you play. If you get a good centre-back, it doesn't really matter. Do you know what I mean? It's not like if Virgil van Dijk shouldn't become available, it's not like someone would go, well, we can't sign him because we haven't got a director of football. People would be like, he's an amazing...
Well, yeah, there's players like Adam Webster. I'm not saying we can go and get Adam Webster, even though he plays for Brighton, but tall, solid centre-back, good on both feet, good coming out with the ball.
No, but that's not even... I'm not even looking at half that stuff. I'm looking at a good defender, someone who can defend. So same with... I just heard...
There's a lad at Fenerbahce as well, isn't there? The centre.
Yeah, but he's been linked because of Pereira. But I've just been listening to a podcast there on the way in talking about Everton. And he was saying, they were actually saying, really surprised Everton haven't looked at someone like Eriksen for the rest of the season. And I know it's a massive gamble, and I don't know how many games you'd get out of him. I don't know how many games Brentford will get out of him because obviously he hasn't played a game since the Euros.
Even if he wins you like 6 points, that could be a massive.
To be honest, it's not even that. It's the fact that I'm not even sure he would be on Everton's radar because I don't know if we've got the people at the club to do the due diligence on that kind of player. To go, what do we need? We need a number 10 who can play in midfield. Eriksen fits the mould. But then you have to take all that other stuff into consideration. Of course you have to. He hasn't kicked the ball since he died on the pitch, effectively. So, how many games... have Everton got the people in place? Brentford have, because Brentford are a very forward-thinking club. And they're thinking...
They've got football people on the board.
But they've got intelligent people. They've got intelligent people, really, really intelligent people. And they're forward-thinking. You're absolutely right. They're forward-thinking, and they've got intelligent football people. And they're thinking, what's the gamble? Is he healthy? If we bring him in for 6 months, is it worth it to us? Well, they might think, if he comes in and he gets us 12 points, I mean, that'd be huge if he did.
Mid-table. Then
you're mid-table. You're fine. Are Everton looking at those kind of things? And that's what I'm saying. Newcastle looking at Jesse Lingard thinking, he will get us 12 to 15 points because he did at West Ham last season. He got West Ham into Europe. Now, if he does the same for Newcastle, he gets us safe. And that's all that matters. Are Everton thinking like that? That's why yesterday I said about Ross Barkley, saying, forget about all this nonsense about people not liking him, all the rest of him. If he's available, just go and get him on loan for the rest of the season. Forget about all that nonsense. From an Everton Football Club here now staying in the Premier League. Is he good enough to get Everton, to help Everton get 2 or 3, 4 wins? I think he is, personally. And then at the end of the season, he can go back to Chelsea. And you don't have to worry about it then. You just go, he did a job. And that's it. Dele Alli, if you want to be less emotionally involved in the whole situation. Is Dele Alli available? Yes. Will he get the point? Will he give us a creative edge that'll help us get 4 wins? Yes. Go and get him then.
Well, it's like when we signed...
Go and get him.
Nobody wanted Big Sam.
No.
But he came in and did a job. He finished 8th when we were in a...
But that's
where was we when he came in?
But that's
going down.
That's the other side of it, though, isn't it? That's making a decision on a manager. That's making a decision on a manager. That's being proactive and saying we know where we are, we know what we need. That's making a decision. That's what Watford have done today. Watford have just gone, we're in the mire. We need a manager who can save us from going down, because that's all that matters. And they've gone and got a fella who'll make them very. He's pragmatic. He'll sort their defence out, and what they'll say is, if we can sort our defence out, we've got a few players on the counter-attack. Sarr when he comes back.
Yeah, very much like Crystal Palace.
The other lad got sent off, Dennis. His XG is unbelievable. So
Joshua King.
They'll think with those 3 players, if they get tight, they'll score. I think that's what Norwich have done. Norwich have gone, get ourselves tight or tighter, and we've got just enough goal scorers. And maybe that's what I think that maybe that's where Dunker's looking on Saturday. Get tight, and we might just have enough at the other end. And let's be honest, we should have got a draw out the game. We battered them second half in terms of shots.
We had a couple of chances, which Mina had a couple of plays over the bar. Obviously, the Dom one that was flashed across him, and then there's the Corian where he broke. It was basically it
should have been a draw.
2-1, really.
Should have been a draw ultimately, and a draw, is the first stepping stone, but it wasn't. So now we're all gutted for a couple of weeks, and now we're looking at the next few games. It's really massive. Stephen Guy says, I really hope they they do take their time. I think the die is already cast for the season. I look at the fixture list and can't see where the wins are going to come from. Obviously, I hope I'm wrong, but never felt so down with our club. We need to be looking at someone who can push us on if we stay up, but also someone we believe could bounce us straight back. If we do get relegated, protests against these people should continue over the next few weeks down at the live buildings. Carla says that space on Twitter last night was both terrifying and brilliant. Adam Singler says, as long as Keir Jordan is involved with the club, we are doomed. Steve says, do you think that Derby will give permission to speak to Rooney given in such a bad position? It's nothing to do with Derby. It's the administrators. Derby are run by administrators now. If they will sell you their seats in the stand if they think it's worth their while.
Yeah, maybe we should just give them the 20 million for Rooney, and then we can just say we can make a documentary about how we saved Derby.
I don't think we've got 20 million. If we wanted to speak to Rooney, we'd have to go through the administrators, and there's nothing the club could do. Absolutely nothing. Richie says, I remember in the past when the likes of Rom, Stones, Barkley left, I was gutted they'd gone when it looked like we were on the verge of breaking through. Now I look at the top players like Dominic Calvert-Lewin and Richarlison and think they'd be crazy to stay past the summer. The way the club said it, massive appointment this, both short and long term. Absolutely. And Julian says, do you think Managerial will seek Abramovich's opinion again on Frank Lampard, and that could be the key to whether he gets the job? Well, I imagine you would speak to someone like Abramovich, and you'd speak to people who were at Derby, and you would speak to, obviously, he'd interview himself, and then you'd make a decision. You'd do that on all the managers. The problem is, and we've seen this, if Jordan's in his ear, Jordan will want his own man in Everton. Because that's where we are now with Jordan FC. That's what it's becoming. And that's the real worry.
This is by far the biggest decision Managerial will have to make, and this could basically write out Everton's future. This could go horribly, horribly wrong, or can just be the start of. I don't. It's odd, really, because I don't see any decision that is made as being long term. I just see this decision get us out the mud.
As this decision to me is someone comes in and gets Everton away from the relegation zone. That's all I see. I don't see past that, because I can't see past that. I can't see past the next 18 games in the Premier League. That's all I can see. I can't see past that. And that's where, like, obviously I'm saying Watford are thinking the same way. That's all my focus is on. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter after that. Then it's another season. You get another chance. Not that I think we're in great shape to take on another season, but that's all. I can't see there's this thing of like, he'll get us away and then he'll do this. No, all I see is there's 18 games and we have to win 1 and 3.
Get to the summer. I'd snatch 17th off you right now. Get to the summer and just get a director of football in who just let everyone else step away from the football and decisions. Get a director of football and let us just take us somewhere we've been wanting to go for a long time. Because that is the modern game. You need a director of football.
Tom Pike says, I actually thought Favre had retired. I think he might have, but
he's not in the job. He's 64.
Do these people never retire though? Do they?
Well, I thought Roy Hodgson had packed it in.
Exactly.
How old's he? He's 117 years old.
74, isn't he, or something like
Yeah.
that? These fellas never retire. If there's a good job out there for them, they never retire. Someone like Favre, if you offered them to the rest of the season, and then said, well, maybe after that there's another year or 2 years, I think he would maybe look at the project at least. A
year older than Rafa, isn't he?
He hasn't had a job in a couple of years. You're absolutely right, but
was his last job Dortmund?
I think so, yeah. Tenny McAllister says, I'm not a Lampard fan, but one key thing is that he may be able to get us access to some Chelsea players on loan. Can't believe it's come to this, but the midfield's an absolute emergency, and we could do with not just Barkley, but probably Loftus-Cheek too. Maybe, but and you're right. Everton need to get someone in who can just get something happening so that they can get access to these players, and that might be the key. And as I say, I'm only really looking at the next 18 games. So if that's what it is, that's what it is. Richard Dean says, "Good to see you, Ned. You called it about Saturday. I could have put money on us not getting a result. There wasn't way too much riding on that one game, especially given Gerrard wanting to prove a point. Dunk made a few bad decisions, and everything went against us. One result shouldn't decide Duncan's fate. It probably will. Denny D says, the board have known for a while with regards to replacing the former manager, but in typical Everton fashion, it turns into a soap opera, and has many twists and turns. In the meantime, we're sinking very fast. No points in the league since mid-December. I think we're doomed and destined for the Championship, and Bramley-Moore will become an Aldi or a Lidl. It'll probably just be a car park.
Nice little beach.
Yeah. Chris says, what you said yesterday, Ped, about no one giving a damn if we are relegated, bang on. In fact, most would rejoice that out on the people on the outside of the club. I was saying it. That demonstrates how far we've tumbled from the People's Club and neutral second club. Heartbreaking. Well, ultimately, if we did get relegated, it would be a story for about 5 minutes, and then we'd disappear, and then we'd be
Sunderland.
We'd be old news, wouldn't we? We'd be old news.
At least they had a documentary.
Yeah, at least they did. It would be old news very quickly, and then because the football, Premier League especially, it waits around for nobody, and a lot of people they'd love to see Everton go, because we offer nothing to the Premier League. We offer absolutely nothing. We've done, bar a couple of seasons, we've never done anything. We are just a constant nothingness. We're like Pluto.
No good times.
We can't even decide whether we're a planet or not.
We've had no good times.
We've had no good times.
I've had no good times.
We are just orbiting the sun in the vast coldness of space without any atmosphere or anyone living on us.
Surely space can't be that cold. Right next to the sun, aren't you?
No, it's free. What are you talking about? It's freezing.
Is it?
Yeah.
Wow. God.
Does it? Hang on. Does it not get cold here?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you take that coldness and you times it by being on Pluto, do you not think that would be cold?
Pluto's miles away, though.
It is miles away, isn't it?
Like,
so do you not think it would be cold on Pluto?
Probably, but
yeah.
if you're like near the sun, you'll be alright.
But you're not near the sun, are you? Because we're nearer to the sun, and it gets cold here.
If you was on Pluto, yeah, it'd be freezing.
Yeah, there you go. I'm glad we got to that point. Can you show me your workings out?
Just Googled, where's Pluto? Miles away.
That's miles away. I mean, it gets quite cold on Mars, and that's a little bit further away. It gets quite cold here. I think that's the way you look at it, haven't you?
Not as cold as it used to be.
No, but I think if you went to the South Pole, where there are
the polar bears.
There are no polar bears.
There is.
No, there's not.
There is.
No, there's not.
Definitely polar bears in the South Pole. They're just all dying. I googled the animals in the South Pole, and it said penguins, whales, and polar bears. Okay. Although there's few.
How did the polar bears get to the South Pole?
They swam.
Okay. From where?
The North Pole. They stopped at the East for a Mackey's.
They stopped at the where?
The East Pole.
The East Pole. Where's the East Pole?
Canada.
So is Canada in the East?
There's no such thing as the East Pole.
So why have you just said there's an East Pole?
It was a joke.
It wasn't a very funny joke.
I was laughing inside. Anything to stop me crying?
Yeah, okay. Mathew Graham says, just Red 5 is talking to Gladbach.
Munchen Gladbach.
What other Gladbach? Pluto Gladbach.
Maybe they're just glad he's
East
back.
Pole Gladbach.
I bet they're glad he's back.
Carl says it's interesting that we seem to only want someone until the end of the season. That's very different approach to what we've done before. Not completely sure what to read into it either. Either they have a plan already or someone in mind, or we're in a bigger mess than we think, and they are worried about relegation impact. Am I reading too much in it? Relegation impact, mate. We're finished if we get relegated. I can't stress that enough. I've actually seen people go, "Oh, wouldn't be the worst thing if we were relegated."
If we go down, we're never coming back up.
We are finished if we get relegated.
Right.
We have got players on huge contracts that would all have to go.
Pickford goes, Mina goes, Gray goes, Allen goes, Decore goes, Richarlison goes. All on the cheap. We've got no money to bring.
They'd all go.
We'll bring Lewis Graben in. We'll bring Andre Gray instead of Demira Gray, and we'll take a long time to get him playing good footy.
But the point being is,
we'll go down.
The point being is, players most of our players would go. We'd be left with probably anyone who's younger than 20 and anyone who's older than 30, right? Basically.
They're all leaving. They'll go.
So, and half of them are already going anyway.
Other fellas
So
going.
then you'd have to rebuild an entire squad. And that's if you could get rid of people like Gomez. You'd probably just have to let him go, so you'd lose a boatload of money.
Someone would have him for like 5 million, and we'd have to take it.
So you have to rebuild the team while you were playing teams who were massively competitive, and then get through that big mad season. That's why teams who go down, like Fulham, bounce back straight away in Norwich, because you just keep the same team together and they add slightly to it and they try and improve, and they don't really go anywhere. And that's why Fulham are doing so well, whereas we'd have to get rid of lots and lots of players. That's why clubs like Leeds and Villa and Sunderland struggled, because they went down with massive wage bills and they couldn't sustain it. Finn says, really got me when Bill said we've had good times. I'm 22 in March and I've seen one final 2019.
Three semi-finals.
Slate said, educating Ned, it's a show in itself. Richie Dean says, have to disagree with your view on Bramley Moore would be built if we go down. Mashiri would see his legacy regardless of our league status. All right, fair enough. Right. What I would say is, Rich, and I'm not disagreeing with you, and I'm not an accountant, but surely the money coming for the stadium is coming from loans that are dependent on Everton being in the Premier League, not money that the owner's putting in. The owner can underwrite it, Usmanov can underwrite it, but they're not paying for it. And my worry is that if Everton go down, would the money be there? Now, Everton might look at it and go, well, it would be there because in the short term we expect to get back in the Premier League. And it would be built in that short term, parachute payments and all that stuff. But the problem is then you'd have to repay it, and then you get into a situation, and this is where like the likes of Coventry have found themselves, is they couldn't repay and they lost the stadium because they couldn't repay it, because it was all built on the premise of Premier League money. And that's where we find ourselves, because the problem is that this club, don't forget, makes losses every single year. Every single year this club makes losses. Therefore, and a lot of the money we earn comes from being in the Premier League, TV money. If you take that TV money away, and then it's like, because you could fill the ground every week. No one's saying that fans are not going to go to a new stadium. But if you fill that ground every week, but then you don't have Sky money, you ain't making, still ain't making the money. You still aren't making. Because think about it, if we win the Championship, could they ask for the money we pay for our season tickets? The demand they want, the money they want. Imagine they went into a new stadium in the Championship and they were like, yeah, your season ticket's £900. People just go, nah, mate. Nah, it's not. I'm not going. I'm not paying £900 to go and watch Championship football. It just won't happen. So that's my worry. You might be absolutely right. You might force it through because there's only a couple of years. But my worry is that the loans don't happen, because we're borrowing effectively on the back of Premier League football. And if we haven't got Premier League football, then where does that money come from? That's my worry. People out there might be experts and might tell me otherwise, but that's my worry. Hakon says, can Ned please go back to school? He knows less about the world than an ordinary American.
We didn't do geography in school, right?
You did.
Yeah, but it's all about like...
Which part was geography? The bit about Pluto? Is that geography?
We didn't do anything about space and geography. That was more,
no, you wouldn't.
Like science.
You wouldn't. That is more like science.
Yeah,
you're absolutely right. Chris says, as time goes on, I'm starting to feel like Lampard can be the best option of the ones interviewed. I love Dunk, but some fresh ideas in this squad could help. There you go.
Yeah, maybe Pereira and Martin is just a massive bluff to make us feel better about Lampard.
Maybe.
Never know.
Chad says, plus you have a ready-made buyer currently across the park to buy Bramley Moore. They're saying this before to one of the Red Men. They could buy as it is right now and just have it as a car park. Or the Titanic could have it as a car park. Have you got any comments there? Any good comments?
Let's do some YouTube
ones.
Do
some YouTube ones.
Lisa said, hi lads, do you consider Big Dunk an option still? His tactics weren't great of the day. Felt like Rafa on steroids.
I don't know. I do think he got it massively wrong, but I also don't think that fully represents him, because if he'd had Allen available from the start, I think he would have played 3. I think he went in midfield. I think he went for something, and it didn't quite come off. If someone puts the ball in the back of the net, which they should have, then maybe we'd be sitting here being slightly different. I think if it was him, then you'd have to say to him, yeah, obviously rest of the season and get more time with them. But I think Everton are probably looking on from the outside now, and they're trying to get fresh ideas into it.
Bertie says, this is simply not good enough for Everton. I don't like all these people talking like relegation is acceptable. It's not.
No, it's absolutely not.
I think I was talking to Redmond before, as soon as it came in, he said they won't go down. And I think a lot of Blues are still feeling the same way.
Yeah, a lot of people
need to realise that this is real now.
But it's not acceptable anyway. It's just like this malaise that it's acceptable. Like, oh, we won't be down, we're fine. It's like, but so does that make it all acceptable where we are and what we're doing and how bad we are and how badly the club's run? Some people really need to get their heads out their arses. I've seen people going, oh, bed sheets, that'll make a difference. I mean, wake up. This club is a mess, and it's a mess because of the people who run it. And you're sitting on your ass worrying about lads going out there who actually make their feelings known. Everybody should be making their feelings known about this. Not sitting there just like tutting at people who do want to make but don't get me wrong, and that's not me going, everyone should kick off about this. But I've seen it. I've seen people on social media go, oh, like it's terrible that we should be all in it together. All in what? Most people sit on their hands when they go to the match anyway. Most people can't even sing. Never mind get angry about the situation. And that's what really worried me and really annoyed me about Saturday was it was a massive anticlimax. The whole game was an anticlimax. There wasn't that feeling. There was a lot of people who were like, oh, we've lost again. Oh, well, oh, what? So what? In a way. And it's like, when are some people going to get angry about this situation? When are some people going to get angry about Bill Kenwright and the people who run our club and Farhad Mashiri and Keir Jordan's inclusion and all this? When are people going to get angry? Because it's at the moment, it just seems to me like a handful of fans are pushing this agenda everywhere. An agenda that needs to be pushed by everybody. This is not acceptable. When are you going to get angry about it? When we get relegated? Or when we don't get relegated and we stay up by like a point or something? Ooh, that'll be good. Because if we're shit now, we'll be shit next year. We are where we are because of the people who run our football club and how they've run it for the last 6 years. You know, Bill Kenwright is part of it because he's been there for the entire time. This is all under his watch. Farhad Mashiri couldn't. I don't know if he could find a fucking good manager or good players with his hand. You know, honestly. And you've got Keir Jordan, a serial destroyer of football clubs, who's in his ear like Wormtongue in Lord of the Rings. And I find it just mad that people are just sitting there going, it'll be all right. Don't worry, we're fine.
Terrifying.
There's 3 teams worse than us. There's 3 teams worse than us. Everton
all right then.
We're Everton Football Club. There should be 16 teams worse than us. When we had standards, when we had standards, there had to be 19 teams worse than us, or when it was the old league, 23 teams worse than us.
Otherwise, get rid of the motto.
This is where we are now. We've accepted mediocrity. We've accepted it. And we've accepted that there are 3 worse teams. Guess what? There aren't 3 worse teams than us. There just aren't. And I just see people just going, oh, that'll make a difference. That'll make a difference. It will make a difference, because you know what? If it makes someone feel like they've done everything they can to try and save the football club they love, then it will make a difference. And if more people do it, if more people make noise about the situation, then we can force change. Because at the moment, this is an absolute shit show, and people are just happy for it to just roll on and roll on and roll on because we're getting a new stadium out of it. Who's asked? New stadium that A, may never get built, and B, we might be watching Championship footballing. Yay.
Emily Jane Jones says Sunderland, Sheffield Wednesday, Nottingham Forest, all gone but not forgotten.
Absolutely.
To be honest though, people my age or younger won't be looking at Sheffield Wednesday like they were a big club. And Nottingham Forest,
when I was growing up, club. Sheffield Wednesday were a big club.
Forest were massive in the 70s.
Forest are not.
Brian Clough did.
Forest are not a massive club. Forest basically had a massive, 10 years. But before that, they were nothing. And after that, they've been nothing. But they won 2 European Cups in that space of time. They had just an absolutely amazing few years. They're not a massive football club. They don't have a huge lineage, a huge whole history. And basically, but the amazing thing about that is Brian Clough went there because he was so pissed off about being sacked by Derby County that he went to their rivals and went, I'll show you. And he did it. And in them days, you could be in Division 2 and go up and be... Because that's what he did with Derby. And he went and done it with Forest. So he had this really good 10 years. But it all came crashing down in the end. But Sheffield Wednesday, they were in the Premier League every year. They were in the... our first game in the Premier League was Sheffield Wednesday at home. We played, Sheffield Wednesday, the big games. I think Sheffield's a big city. And we are heading down that road. We are heading, and what makes it worse is you see it from the fans who supported those clubs and going, you're exactly like us. You're exactly like us. We never thought it could happen. We thought we were too big to fail. And they say, you look exactly like us. And yet some of our fans are just sitting back going, it's 3 worst teams, it'll be fine. Fucking hell.
If you said to a 15-year-old now, tell me something about Sheffield Wednesday, they'll probably go...
It was Sheffield Wednesday.
Championship, League One side. Championship.
Exactly. Magnus says, I can't stress this enough. I don't want a new stadium if Everton are not in the Premier League to compete in it. I'm 21 and distraught how bad we are. Run as a club, this is hurting bad. Only you guys keeping me slightly positive. Keep up the content, it's great. Thanks, Magnus. But we have to have a new stadium anyway, don't we? Because Goodison Park can't last forever as much as we would want it to. Even though I don't really want it to, because I couldn't give a monkeys anymore. Going the match to me is boring and sterile. That's just the way it is now. It's going the match. It's like, for me, it's nothing now. It's been just the leg. I used to absolutely love going the match. Highlight of my week. I love weekends coming up. And people go, well, why'd you do it? Because you can't not do it. It's family to me. Everton Football Club is family.
It's routine. It's ritual, isn't it?
It's not routine. It's ritual. It is ritual in life. People have all different kinds of rituals or whatever.
Go on the church every Sunday. We go to the ground every Saturday.
Strange people. This is it. You can't if you fell out with a member of your family, you might fall out with them, but you still care for them. You're not going to suddenly go. You might stop talking to them, but you don't want anything bad to happen, or the part of your life, whether you like it or not. Once you're in, aren't you?
James Hall says, Ped and Ned, would you consider Nuno Espirito Santo?
No.
We will link with him in the summer he's available.
No,
absolutely not.
No.
Sacked after 10 games, was it at Tottenham or something stupid?
Gray Leach says, spot on, Ped. When are people going to get angry? I feel I've been angry for our situation for over a decade. One way to lessen it is Roy is to show. Well, Roy is to show Kenwright the door or window, whichever. Now, yeah. Again, no, this is it. I was listening to the podcast on the way on. I think it was the Total Football show. James Richardson's podcast on it's an athletic one, and there was a journalist on it who said there was some Everton situation. Who was saying about Bill Kenwright, and I know I've seen other people say, "Why are you having a go at Bill? Why are you having a go at Bill? What's it got to do with Bill? It's Mashiri." But this journalist said he's been the constant in this. He's been there while this is all going on. Everton have got to make big decisions. The biggest decision is they have to bring in a director of football who runs the club, right? And then they get rid of people like Kenwright and people like Dennis Barrett-Baxendale, and they get people who can actually run a football club. And Mashiri has to stay out of it. Bit like Arsenal with Stan Kroenke. Jordan was there, and then they forced him out. Edu and Arteta in charge. Doesn't matter what you say about Arteta. I know loads of people don't think he's great, but he's got power at the club. He forced the power because he's a good man. He's a good manager who wanted young players coming in. And he wanted all the older players out on big contracts.
Well, they're going in his direction now rather than
him and Edu make the decisions. But he forced it. He basically said, "I'm leaving this club if this continues." The problem is we haven't got a manager in charge who can be that strong. We haven't got a director of football who could be that strong. And that's where our problems lie, because we've never had a manager that we've connected to that's got the power. For all the Arsenal fans bitching and moaning, there is a section who look at Arteta and think, no, you're in charge. He is in charge, him and Edu. And Everton have got to find that. This is why I wanted Dan Ashworth and Potter, Because that to me was the perfect scenario. And then Mashiri realises, because this is what the fans have got to get across, I think. And I think they are starting. Yes, Bill Kenwright should not be at Everton Football Club, but Mashiri needs to pipe the fuck down, apologies for my language. He needs to realise that he can't run a football club. He needs to realise that there's no place for Kia Jordan at Everton Football Club. And that's what the fans need to start getting over to him. There's no place for those people. There's no place for Farid Mashiri to be running a football club. And there's no place for Kia Jordan to be at this football club. It should be run like a proper football club, which is a director of football who has the power, all the power. People might not like Brands, or they might like Brands or whatever, but Brands certainly didn't have the power to do his job. Simple as that. Then he and the manager have the power to get... Look at Liverpool. When do you ever hear about the owners? When did the owners ever pipe up? They've left that club to a manager who's got full power and a technical director that oversees everything, and it works perfectly. Perfect club, good clubs. You never hear a peep out the owners ever.
We've not even got a chairman. A proper chairman would say, Mashiri, step aside, mate. We've got a chairman who will accept a manager to come in who he doesn't want.
Mashiri can't step aside. What he can do is go back to his house and just sit on his house and watch the telly. And that's it. And let a director if he wants a successful football club, he has to let a director of football run the football club. And I've heard a million times people go, what's the point of directors of football and all this nonsense? You haven't got a clue about modern football if you don't think there's a place for technical directors or directors of football. Because this is what happens. You end up with a football club that has no manager, no director of football, 3 stooges on the board. No scouting. Medical staff gone because they've gone with the manager. This is what happens. So you end up with 6 days before the transfer window, we have nobody who can buy the players. No manager. And no. What we should have this week is a director of football going over the managers and at the same time buying players. That's what we should have this week. Instead, what we've got is a situation where we're staring down the barrel of a gun and we've got no one who can bring players in, and we're trying to bring a manager in, and we haven't got a director of football.
Well, that's modern stability. In the modern game, managers don't last long at all at any club. It's very rare. They see out a contract, they get sacked for the contract, or sometimes they get an extension. So your stability comes from your board or your director of football, and that's where your direction goes. Otherwise, you sack a manager, and then you end up with a circle of shite like we've had for 6 years.
But even that though, like you bring a director of football in who understands what the culture of the club is going to be. He directs. Director, right? He decides what the culture of the football club's going to be, and then he brings a manager in to suit that culture. Right? You give the power to the manager, but he suits the culture, and then you start bringing players in. And actually, the job is not to sack managers. The job is to get people in place that are going to last a while.
But if you
have to sack them, like
you get someone who's the similar sort of characteristic.
And you don't change. Ring Carlo Ancelotti's book when he goes to Chelsea, and he said, "I want my staff," and Abramovich was like, "No, we've got good staff here, but in a month's time, if you don't feel like those staff are good enough, bring in a couple of people." And he got there and he said after a month, he was impressed by the people. So he never had the baggage of having to bring all these people in. So Chelsea didn't have to bring in all these people. And it'll be the same with Tuchel. He won't have brought in loads of people. The same people in the background, there'll be the same people there. But we go through staff and we're paying people off all the time. We are the definition of how not to run a football club.
Well, look at Chelsea when I know we had a transfer ban. Lampard didn't get any of his own players, and then that summer where they brought in Havertz and Werner, they weren't Lampard's players, they were Chelsea's players. Yeah. So as soon as Lampard was underperforming, they sacked him, brought a player and won the Champions League.
Tuchel got the best out of them. Tuchel got the best out of all those players. Tuchel should be the same with Rom now. Rom have been bought, and it won't be Tuchel's man as such. And now the difficult part is how does Tuchel get the best out of Rom, and he's not, because they don't really suit each other's styles. But that might actually lead to Tuchel getting the sack.
And they'll bring someone in who.
But the manager, they'll bring someone in probably who can get the best out of Rom and get the best out of the rest of the team. That's the way Chelsea do things. It might suit everybody.
That's why they've been at the top for a long time.
Exactly.
It's their way of being stable.
They keep on trying to get better, and if the manager can't keep up with it, it doesn't matter. Whereas Everton it's a race to the bottom for Everton. Chris says the stupid thing is, Any of the three worst teams than us, you could argue strong case they could all stay up. Watford have a new manager. It was amazing at keeping the team solid. Newcastle under new ownership and can spend silly money for fun. Norwich have just won their past few games, Burnley at the bottom, but they've got a lot of games in hand. The idea that there's three worse teams than us is a myth, absolutely right. Owen Brown says, why are fans so quick to jump on players but not the board? Good point. Richie says, if Ken Wright continues after Saturday, they will show that he's only in it for the dough. It's that simple. Finn says, Bill is like Jerry Jones from the Cowboys. Will accept media teams, still class the team as the top team in the league and can't manage a franchise. But Jerry Jones built in £1 billion stadium, didn't he? And that gives them all the best facilities in the world. That's slightly one difference. He also says, but want to be the centre of attention, thinking they keep everything together. You're right on that one.
Sharon says, if we sell DCL, do you think Ron will ever come back? If we sell DCL, it's probably because we are massively underperforming. So why would get Lukaku back?
Dom will go this summer as far as I'm concerned. Dom will go. He's got massive ambitions, and people can go, well, he's terrible.
Be 25 next year, I think.
He's got massive ambitions, and this is the crossroad in his career. I think he'll go. I think he'll go to Arsenal. And I know people keep on going, man, he'll go to Arsenal. Why would you... Everton aren't going anywhere fast under the current regime. It was said yesterday that he is looking at who Everton are bringing in now. And he's happy at the club. But he'll be looking, going, hang on, I've got to make a decision. There's a World Cup coming. I haven't played in the last few England squads, so there's no guarantee his place is secure for that World Cup. I need to be at the right place. And he does, and he's absolutely right. And a lot of players will be thinking like that.
I wouldn't blame Pickford if he wanted to leave.
No, Pickford will be exactly the same. They deserve to. Pickford last year was magnificent, and he's pretty much now you look at him thinking he is almost a finished article as a goalkeeper now. He's got it up there. That save.
He understands the game a lot better.
That save he made on Saturday, which it was offside. That save he made was unbelievable, by the way. Didn't get mentioned because it was offside. But Pickford is like at the peak now. So he'll be looking at it. All right, he loves playing for England, but he'll start looking, going, do you know what? This mightn't be the best fit for me anymore. Dom will be the same. Richarlison will be the same. And there'll be a couple of other players thinking the same. All right, some deserve more than others. But, it's... It just infuriates me that there is this attitude out amongst a lot of our fans of it's gonna be fine. It's not fine. It's not fine that Everton are where we are right now.
If you finish mid-table, that's not fine.
No,
it might be. It might be. It'll snatch your hand off.
Especially when you look at the money we spent. It might be fine when we had Moyes and we didn't have any money. But now we've had money. Hakon says the only ones who have some kind of power is the star players. DCL going out telling he wants to play for a good manager is the closest we've come to someone pushing Machiri. I mean, he hasn't actually said that though, has he? It's not publicly. He hasn't said that publicly. Though he will give Machiri a good payday even when he leaves. Grey Lead says, loving the passion, Ped.
I wonder what we'd do with the money though.
We'd buy a giant fish tank for the park end. Matt says we need to keep everyone galvanised and keep the spirit of the fighting mentality. Big dunk on the basics to build on during the Premier League winter break.
I don't even know what's going to happen with Big Dunk now. I don't even think he probably knows.
No.
Nobody knows what's going to happen with this at this club at all. Its future could be anything.
It could be. Any comments?
Nate says it's not going to be fine, but we are not going to be relegated. Hold me to it. You don't know that though. We don't. I can't. I know it only takes one good game. I mean, Brentford could be our Oxford or something. You never know. It only takes that one game to lift our spirits. Honestly, I can't see where that game comes from. It looks really worrying now, and you know.
Yeah, but can we all agree though that this is not fine? Can we just all agree that this isn't fine?
No manager.
I like that idea. I like that you're saying, your positivity that you're saying we won't be getting relegated.
Is that really?
But can we
good
agree
enough?
that this is not fine?
Shouldn't can we agree
that the transfer window shuts next Monday and nobody knows who's buying players? Can we agree that not having a manager, a director of football, only having 4 people on the board, having an owner who listens to an agent who would sell his nan, having not the adequate number of medical staff, having no scouting, no head of scouting. Can we all agree that's not fine in the middle of a season? Can we all agree that the list of candidates for the manager not all being completely a lot different from each other isn't fine? Because I think that's what is the main problem, is that, we might win 6 games, we might stay up. If these players get their heads out their arses, that might happen. That's achievable. That is achievable. Of course it's achievable. 6 wins out of 18 games, that's achievable. Of course it is. Of course it's achievable. But can we all agree that this is not fine? This is a shit show, an absolute shit show. And I think if everybody just recognised that, and instead of going, yeah, but what do you want them to do? If people were just angry about the situation, and I'm not saying you all have to stay behind after a match. I'm not all saying you have to go to Finch Farm with pitchforks.
Yeah, not everyone can stay behind.
But shut up, you.
I can't.
You got off, didn't you? Yeah, get off.
Yeah, to make thumbnails. Stay for 10 minutes.
Hang on, I stayed for nearly an hour, and I still got on before you.
You were doing videos. I've got to go home and do stuff.
You haven't got to go home and see.
That's dedication to
That's
Toffee
the attitude.
TV.
No, that's the attitude that'll see you not getting a job here, my friend. Because there was no dedication. You could have been filming.
Everyone went in the park.
You could have been filming the park end ones. People stay behind the park end.
Idea.
You could have. Oh, good idea.
I was too busy giving
3 days after the event.
Too busy giving Gerrard abuse.
Why would you give Gerrard abuse? What's he done? Nothing.
Just don't like him.
Well, see, that's the problem. That's the problem. Having a go at an ex-Liverpool fan when you should be having a go. I've seen that on Twitter as well. I'm still seeing people like making jokes about Liverpool. Who cares? No, I couldn't care less. Honestly couldn't care less if Liverpool won the Champions League and the league this season. I couldn't care less. It would mean nothing to me. While they're literally 2 competitions we're not in. So they play a different sport to us.
Do you think our board could just look at other teams and go, "Oh, what do they do?"
That's exactly what they do though. They do that. When he first came in, he thought the way to do things was by bleeding sacking a manager every so many months.
Yeah, just do what Watford do. Let's find some comments. Glenn Watson says fine is not good enough. Absolutely correct. Kiva Sutherland says, have you seen the May fixtures?
Yeah, I've seen all the fixtures.
I'm not confident about any of the fixtures.
It doesn't matter.
I think Newcastle will beat us in 2 weeks' time. Not even confident about Leeds at home. That's our next home game, isn't it? Other than Brentford. Mm-hmm. Emily says, can't blame the players going because the owners will sack you once you are finished. Dog eat dog. John says, I can tell you that Tim Cahill will be employed at some role at the club. I worked there and saw him and Bill Kenwright having a deeper discussion. Yeah, it's looking more likely. Kevin says, I reckon some of our players have already booked and moved to another club and are ready to jump ship. I won't blame him if they did, to be honest. Chris says, we are the faulty towers of the Premier League. Chaotic. Nate says, thing is, staying up shouldn't be a reward. Barely scraping by a club like Everton is a joke. Absolutely. Craig says, in my opinion, we get Lampard in and try and get Loftus-Cheek and Barkley off Chelsea in the next week. Potentially Malang Sarr on loan and Barkley cheap. It would have to be a loan for Barkley.
I don't think you could have that many loans.
You can't have 3 loans from a team, can you? You can only have 2. Roddy says, I'm sure there were people saying get behind Rafa when he arrived. Yeah, because I didn't want Rafa. Nobody wanted him. But if a manager comes in, especially certainly in the summer, you get behind him. Otherwise, what good's it going to do? The situation's very much different now. Maybe if we go down, maybe that's because we should have sacked Rafa earlier. But if a manager comes in, the best you can do is get behind him. Otherwise, you're doomed. And you're just accepting doomedness. Nicholas says, it's starting to look like being 2-0 down against Wimbledon on the final day and needing to win to stay up. Scouse on the Rill says, nah, don't mistake Stevie's passion. It's something Everton have been missing for years. Yeah. Sam says, guys, who is the manager you want Everton to appoint next? Out of all these players now, who would you rather? Are you still backing Dunk? Do you think Dunk should
No,
get
Graham
it?
Potter should be them. We should be going after Graham Potter. We should be throwing everything at Graham
He's
Potter.
not even been mentioned though.
Well, I know that's the problem though, because the club doesn't
We
have,
don't have ambition.
the
do
club
we?
doesn't have standards.
You can't go and get Graham Potter without getting the fella above him, though, can you? Dan Ashworth would make I think a bigger impact right now than Graham Potter, as long as we stayed up. Nate says, you know what, it wasn't that I didn't want Rafa. It's just I knew his past wouldn't allow him to be fully accepted, and he always felt like an outsider at Everton. Yeah, I agree. It was always going to end this way. As soon as results went sideways, he wasn't getting the backing from the fans. But as soon as he came in the club, you had no other option other than to back him. Otherwise, you just...
It's why all season I didn't really...
We said at the start of the season...
I didn't really get sort of involved in a lot of the stuff about Benitez. He was always doomed to failure. Fans were never going to give him a chance.
We said, didn't we?
Don't get me wrong,
players.
His attitude was pretty poor in terms of how he dealt with fans as well, and how he dealt with the communication side of things. But he was on a high into nothing. He come into a club and the club was a mess, and he fought for power, and he got it. And then the owner took the power off him. Like a week later, it's mad. No way to run a football club. There's absolutely no way to run a football club.
Do you think we should be going all out and getting Potter and Ashworth off Brighton? Do you think we should be going out and maybe looking at David Moyes as well, or do you think there's no chance?
There's no chance of getting David Moyes.
Toffee Digger says Lampard is a no-brainer.
Well, they seem to be taking the sweet time over here if it is a no-brainer.
Mischievous Mock says Claudio Ranieri is available. No, not for me.
Martin Armstrong says, I agree, this is not fine, and we are a shambles from top to bottom. But we are not rock bottom of the league. And so our destiny's still in our hands. We have the players to get results out of this. Just wake up, Everton. Grey Lead says, this is not fine. Not by a long way, and no one is ever too good to go down, let alone Everton, who can't pass a ball in the final third. Every year the club stinks. Sinks like a stone, he says, yeah. And this year it's us. We need drastic measures and fast across all fronts regarding Everton. That's from the fans, the players, and the board. Magnus says, "Did you see the sad news last night about the AFCON? Yeah, awful,
yeah.
Absolutely awful." Conrad says, "It's just breaking my heart watching this unfold." Owen says, "If your phone popped up now with the manager, who's the best and worst of who's been linked to get the job?"
I've no idea.
Like the likes of Vitor Pereira.
The worst would be Pereira.
And Cannavaro shouldn't be anywhere near this football club. The track records just don't fit with what we need right now. They really don't. We need someone who's got some kind of an understanding of what is required in the Premier League right now
and what the job is.
Yeah. Grady says Benitez should have been sacked earlier for definite.
Scouts on the Rivel says Everton need a Sean Dyche. Maybe we do right now.
Maybe they do.
Who's to say we're above a Sean Dyche?
That's it. We're not above a Sean Dyche, because he's actually the kind of manager who could get us out of this mess.
And he is someone who's basically got the reins at his football club. So
yeah. Mike says, "Do you think the plethora of new different managers has caused a growing number of players to be disinterested with giving their best on the pitch? Constant change of managers who will be tired in the players and probably have been given up. They just hang around to collect their overinflated wages." Yeah, if you're a player, I imagine it must be difficult to know what the strategy is. But also, if you're a player and you're looking at your career and you get like 10 years, of your career, you get like 2 or 3 at the beginning and 2 or 3 at the end, and if you've got 10 years, say in the middle, let's just say with a little bit crossing over on each end, that's 10 years. It's not a very long time, is it? It's not a very long time, that. And if you've signed a contract for 2 or 3 years and you're looking at a club and thinking, right, I'm at this football club, and you're looking at it right now and you're thinking, say Dominic Calvert-Lewin, so he's 24 going 25, isn't he? Right? His next big contract is one that will take him up to his 30th birthday, right? That there is peak years. He has to win if he's going to win anything, it's in the next 5 years. People think he's young, but he's not young. He's in the middle of his career. So he's got 5 years. If he looks at Everton's situation and goes, this club is going to take 2 years to get anywhere near challenging again, right? That's 2 years of my career. I'll be 27. And there's no guarantees. He's got to make that decision really soon. Whether, it doesn't matter how much he loves the football club. He's got to make a decision on his career. It's something Ross Barkley did, but Ross Barkley did it the wrong way.
It's what Kane's been doing, but should have done earlier.
Yeah.
Should have been gone.
It's what
now.
all players have to do. They have to make a decision. Some will stay at the clubs they're at because they think, is there any point going anywhere else? Will I get games of football? I love it here, blah, blah, blah. And they stay. But some players have ambition. It's like when Romelu Lukaku left Everton. Could anyone criticise Romelu Lukaku for leaving Everton? No. Right? And Dom, I think, is getting to that point now where people mightn't even think Dom's very good, but if he's got a choice to make of, I could go somewhere and win trophies, he's going to make the decision to go places and win trophies. And that's football, because football is short, the career is short. We have players that did stick around, Cahill, Coleman, Baines, who probably should have left Everton Football Club, but what have they got out of it? Basically nothing. Sentiment they've got out of it, right? Well, fine, some people love sentiments and can live with that for the rest of their lives, but top players just want to win stuff. It's within the DNA. It's within the DNA to win stuff, and I think that's where some of our players will be. And if I was one of those players, I'd be looking at the situation going, we're a mess, and I can't. What's the point of me sticking around? And people might go, well, you're abandoning ship, but they're not. They're looking after their own career, because football career is really short. It's really short. To be at your best, of course, now you can play to your 36, 37. Of course you can. But you're not at your best, are you? You're at your best when you're 25 to 30. That's when you're at your best. And players will start making those decisions very quickly, I think.
Yeah, I wouldn't be blaming Dom if he left. William says, what scares me that we had a full team on Saturday and still didn't have the quality to win. Yeah, I sort of get what you're saying. I think if Alan's maybe fit and been training, he's had COVID, hasn't he? I think maybe he goes and we play a 4-3-3. I
think we didn't have players at their peak optimum levels. I think Mina and Dom are still off it. And I think Townsend only came back 2 weeks ago. Richardson only came back last week as well. He'd been out for a month. So you got to remember that. I'm hoping by the time we play Brentford. I think playing Brentford and Newcastle in quick succession will be good for us. 3 games in a week, I think that'll be good for us. Get the levels up. No, there's only me who's gone away on international duty. Everyone else will be at Finch Farm working.
He will be back.
Yeah, okay. So, yeah. We hopefully come back from this break and players. And of course, the Corey's picked up a knock, and we don't know how long that's going to be. But
it's growing, isn't it? So he could be playing in a couple of weeks, but it may be rushed.
But he could be back for the Leeds game.
3 weeks.
Maybe.
Yeah, 3 weeks away.
Chris says, I still believe that given the choice, if I had to keep Rafa or keep the board, I would have sent those frauds who run our football club packing any day of the week. Rafa was only a symptom of the problem. He was.
Yeah,
right, come on, let's wrap it up. We've done well over an hour, I think. Putting the world to rights. So we still don't know where we are. Everyone else seems to be making decisions. And once again, we are caught like a rabbit in the headlights. And we need to get it sorted. Duncan's just put something out on the website, some quotes and stuff, and it's all very good. It's all fist pumping kind of stuff, but it doesn't really solve anything at this moment. So, yeah, listen, if you're on Patreon, we'll be back at 5 o'clock for more of our ranting and raving. If you're not on Patreon, why aren't you on Patreon? It costs less than a cup of fancy coffee, and you get a month. You get discounts, you get all kinds. The link is in the description. Come and join us on Patreon, even if it's just for 1 month. Even if it's just for 1 month, and you just test it out for a month. All the shows go out as podcasts as well. And so we'll be back. If you're not on Patreon, why wouldn't you? Should be on Patreon. If you're not on Patreon, we'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for watching. See you later.